Today I'll show you how to make this spooky drawstring trick-or-treat bag using just a pillowcase. I'll show you how next. The things you're going to need to make these pillowcase trick-or-treat bags are one white or light colored pillowcase. You're going to need two black iron-on patches. These happen to be 5 inches by 7 inches, and I got this 2-pack at Walmart for 97 cents. You're going to need some 1/4-inch rope. This just happens to be clothesline rope. I also got this at Walmart. I believe it was about $5. You're going to need a scrap piece of iron-on fusible stabilizer. You're going to need something to mark out your buttonhole. I'm using this disappearing marker. You're going to need an X-Acto blade or razor blade. You're also going to need some kind of a template for the ghost face that we're going to put on these pillowcase trick-or-treat bags. I just happen to have this one that I printed off from Martha Stewart. That's where I got this idea for these pillowcases. And if you go to her website and just search pillowcase trick-or-treat bags, there's 4 or 5 different faces that you could print out. I just went ahead and made templates for all of them. Today I'm going to use this face right here. And you're also going to need your sewing machine with a buttonhole attachment. Now I'm going to use my serger here today also, but you could just use a regular straight stitch on your sewing machine. Let's get started. The first thing that I did was turn my pillowcase inside out. I just want to make sure everything's laying nice and flat and there's no folds or creases, and give everything a good press with steam. When you got the first side done, just flip it over and press the back side also. Alright, now that we have this all pressed, I'm going to trim this down. This pillowcase happens to be 33 inches long, and I'm making these for a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I just think that's too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this down to 26 inches long. So with my ruler here and my rotary cutter, I'm just going to line it up and cut off 7 inches from the bottom. Just like that. Now this is just scrap. Now I'm just going to take this over to my serger and I'm going to serge this bottom closed. If you don't have a serger, just go ahead and do a straight stitch followed by a zigzag. But like I said, I'm making these for little kids, so I'm going to reinforce these as much as I can where I can. So now I'm just going to put some pins across here to make sure nothing shifts on me. And I'm just going to take this over to my serger, lining the edge of the fabric here up with the edge of my serger. I'm not going to be cutting off any fabric, and I'm just going to serge that closed. Just like this. Now you just want to clip your threads. If you'd like to reinforce this even more, you can go ahead and go back over this with a straight stitch, making sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. Now you just want to remove your pins. And now you just want to turn your pillowcase right side out. Now we're going to find the placement for our buttonholes. My pillowcase has a seam right here and no seam on this other side. So where the seam is, we're going to go 1 inch down and 1 inch in, and that's where our buttonhole is going to be. So I'm just going to line up my inch mark here on the edge of the pillowcase, and then line up my ruler right here on the opening. I'm going to come down an inch, up an inch, and I'm going to make a line about an inch long. That's where we're going to put one of our buttonholes. We're then going to turn our pillowcase around and do the same thing on this side. And now we have our placement for our buttonholes. We're then going to want to turn this back inside out. And now we're going to want to remove this hem right here in order for us to open up this flap to sew on our buttonholes. But on this particular pillowcase, in order to do that, we're going to have to cut this seam off. So you just want to grab a ruler, line it up with the edge of the stitching here on the pillowcase, and cut it off. Just like that. Now we have an open seam here. You can see our marks for the buttonhole. Now the next thing you want to do is grab a seam ripper and start picking at this seam. These are so cheaply made that you only really need to take a couple stitches and the rest should just pull right out. Just like that. Now you can see that this casing is open. So now you just want to open this up, and you can see that this is the front and this is the back. If you're confused, just look at the bottom. And what we want to do is we're going to cut 1 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch squares from our fusible stabilizer, and we're going to iron these on to the back right over where our marks are for our buttonholes. And you want to do that on both sides. Just like that. Now our next step is we're going to sew on these buttonholes. I'll meet you over at my sewing machine that I've set up with my buttonhole attachments and show you how it's done. Alright guys, I'm over here at one of my sewing machines that I've set up with my buttonhole foot. Just for a guide, I do have a button in the back here, and it's about 3/4 of an inch wide, so that should give me about an inch long buttonhole. I have my stitch dial set at the buttonhole. I have my stitch length set on the buttonhole, and my stitch width I have set at about 5. Now you definitely want to consult your owner's manual to see how your machine sets up with the buttonhole. And if you've never done one before, or even if you have, I would definitely practice. I've sewn lots and lots of buttonholes, and it's always a challenge every time. So now I'm just going to lay my pillowcase with the right side facing up. The stabilizer that we ironed on is facing down, and I'm going to line up the beginning point right here with the lines on my buttonhole foot. And then you want to pull down this little lever here and push it back, and that'll engage the buttonhole. Now hopefully this will work. I like to hold my threads here, the top and the bobbin thread, because sometimes the bobbin thread likes to get tangled up underneath. Now just put the pedal to the metal. success, we have a buttonhole. Now you just want to do that to the other side. Now you just want to trim your extra threads on the front and the back. And using an X-Acto knife or a razor blade, we're going to carefully cut out our buttonhole, making sure we don't cut any of our threads. Just like that. And you want to do that to both sides. Now we're just going to fold the casing back down. And because we pressed this so well in the beginning, our creases that we pressed in here make it very easy to go right back to where they were. So I'm just going to put a few pins in here just to make sure it's held in place. And then I'm going to take this over to my other sewing machine that I have set up on a straight stitch. And I'm just going to follow the pre-existing stitch line, making sure to backstitch at the beginning and the end. And it should look something like this. Now the next step we're going to do is we're going to close this side seam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this back up as best as I can. And as you can see here, I didn't cut a perfectly straight line, and I have some extra fabric here at the bottom. And that's just fine because I'll just cut that off with my serger. So I'm just going to put a couple pins in here. To make sure nothing moved on me. And then I'm just going to serge this side seam closed. Now just clip your threads and remove your pins. And now you just want to turn this right side out again. And now you just want to set this off to the side for just a minute. And grab your patches. Now you could do any face that you want on your Pillowcase trick-or-treat bag, but like I said, I got this idea off the marthastewart.com website and just kind of added my own touch to it. So if you go to her website and search Pillowcase trick-or-treat bags, she has 4 or 5 different templates that you could download and print off. So for this eye piece, what you want to do is we're going to flip it over to the shiny side. And then I'm just going to trace the eye on one side, flip it over, and trace it on the other side. Just like that. Now for the mouth, it suggests folding your patch in half, lining the fold up with your template, and then just trace that out. Now just with some scissors, cut them out. On this one, I'm just going to stick a couple clips on here just to keep it from moving on me. And then just cut it out. And now we have a spooky ghost face. So now you just want to lay out your ghost pattern on your Pillowcase. I like to start with the mouth, make sure it's nice and centered. Now following the instructions on the cardboard that came with our patches, we're just going to iron these down. Now for these patches it says position patch, shiny side down, and press for 30 seconds with a dry iron. Now you just want to position the eyes. I think that looks good. So just iron them down. Now you just want to let these cool down. Check to see if all the pieces are stuck down, and if not, just repeat the steps and iron these back down for 30 seconds. So while these are cooling, I can show you another one that I made with a different face. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to thread our string through our buttonholes here. And so what you want to do is cut 1.5 yards, which is 54 inches of your 1/4 inch rope. With a safety pin, you want to poke it through one side, and then we're just going to thread this through our buttonholes. The easiest way to do it is just to push the fabric onto the safety pin and pull. And we're going to do that till we come out the other buttonhole. Now just tie a knot. And then just trim down your rope, leaving about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Now you could take a lighter and burn the edges of these ropes to keep them from fraying. But I'm just going to use some fabric fusion and put a little blob on each end. And now our Pillowcase drawstring trick-or-treat bag is finished. Any kid will love to have one of these. They will last year after year, and they're big enough so you can get plenty of candy in them. I hope you give this project a try. If you like this video and want to see more of my videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and give it a big thumbs up. Feel free to share this video across your social medias. If you have a question about this video or any of my other videos, or have a suggestion for a future video, leave me a comment down below. And as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.